My name is Stephen Rafferty. You're watching These Are Questions. This is the interview show where I ask people questions about things, life, and such not. And today's guest is a talented actor, performer, and he is the host of his hit podcast, Midnight in Miami. Please welcome Juan Gamero.
Wow, Steven, you're giving me a run for my money with that introduction, man.
Thank you. I try sometimes here on These Are Questions. Sometimes, but not all the time. Sometimes.
I've been excited at the edge of my seat all week long for this interview, so truly I'm very ecstatic. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you for the kind words. I greatly appreciate it. And I'm excited to interview you on These Are Questions in this cross-collaboration here. So let's get right to it. But before we get right into the interview itself, let me explain the rules of These Are Questions. One, I'm going to ask you a series of questions that are going to be based around your career and aspirations, along with a mixture of questions that are borderline idiotic and, well, randomly stupid. Do you accept those terms?
Randomly stupid is my forte, so yeah.
Good to hear. It's okay. So Juan, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Internet, are you ready? Feel it in the air. I feel the midnight coming through Miami right now, coming through our souls. There we go, that Latin vibe. Let's do it. They are ready. With that in mind, let's begin. So thank you again for taking the time to speak with me on These Are Questions. It's going to be a great, fun interview there, and I'm excited to interview you. I would love for you to formally introduce yourself and explain to me your specific journey on how you got into the acting industries and also in the arts.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the question. Very well put together question. So I appreciate your efforts. You're an individual that, is very detail oriented when it comes to these interviews, and I appreciate all the hard work that you put into them. So I think that before I even continue, I think that that's one thing that is not normally spoken a lot about, and especially when you mention crossover of worlds, if you will, very much like Hannah Montana and Sweet Life of Zack and Cody vibes. I love it. Podcasts need to show each other more love, kind of like how we're doing. I love this, and I think that it needs to be done more often. And I think that podcast hosts should be given their flowers. So I'm giving you yours right now. So I appreciate all the hard work that you put together for every one of your episodes. Like you said, 5 seasons is no small feat. So I commend you on that.
Thank you.
Of course. So in regards to what led me to my journey, correct me if I'm wrong, to acting and then the performing arts?
Yes.
So originally I am from Argentina, repping the World Cup winner. I'd be remiss if I don't. And I came here when I was about 7 years or so. And kind of the normal go-to for Argentine youth is okay, I want to be a soccer player. And then when you get a little bit older and you're not that good, what else do I want to be? The spotlight didn't call me, the fame aspect or whatever the case. And so I kind of pursued that a little bit more, not so much during middle school, because there was no drama department in the middle school that I went to. But when I got to high school, funny enough, in the summer from middle school to high school, I knew that acting was something that was calling me. I don't know why, and I just knew that was something that was very appealing to me at the time. And at one moment, I remember, I don't know if you've ever heard of these, these calls on the radio talking about, do you want to be on the Disney Channel? Just come for this casting call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's I go out to one of those quote unquote casting calls. It ends up being John Casablanca's, which I don't even know if they're still around, but it's kind of like one of those, I don't even know. They're like those agents, but you have to use their photographers, and in my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, I don't speak for anybody else, I think it's some sort of elaborate scam. And I mean, a lot of people share this opinion where if you ever have to pay for an agent up front, massive red flag.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
that was yeah, and that was a massive red flag right then and there because that's what they were asking. Luckily, my mom at the time had the knowledge to not follow through, even though I was begging, because obviously in my eyes, I'm like, oh, well, you pay this and boom, you're in the Disney Channel, you're a star, but you're young and dumb and you just have aspirations and you want everything now. And unfortunately, these people put these images in your head. But what I did take from that meeting, that faux audition or whatever the case, where, you know what, that was pretty good, even though I've never rehearsed a monologue in my life.
Mhm.
Um, and they're like, we're interested in you. You just have to pay for this, blah, 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 blah. We didn't end up doing it. But what I did take away from that meeting was that the lady who was in charge of the quote unquote casting said, when you go into high school, you should sign up for drama class. I walked away, quote unquote, heartbroken. My dreams were over because I didn't sign up for John Casablancas at the time.
Mm.
And but I did heed her advice in taking drama class in high school. And that I think was what forever changed everything for me personally, because I was so extremely lucky that I had a drama teacher who actually cared. So just big shout out to Mr. Madruga, my high school drama teacher. He was really what made everything really concrete for me. Because I did take drama all 4 years of high school. I know what I'm gonna do for the rest of my life. In one way, one capacity or another, this is what I want to do. So I think that high school drama was a pivotal turning point for me.
Very cool, very cool. And like a lot of talented actors and performers, they use high school as kind of like their launching point, just going through a drama class or a theater course or working on a school play or working in a film course or whatever the case may be. They use that as a big crutch to get and move them up into their real aspirations and real goals there, which is really cool. And you know, those Disney, quote unquote, Disney slash not Disney slash kind of those weird agencies, let's put it that way. A lot of them have
Right.
been caught for deceptive practices. So like on a positive there, a lot of them are not appearing as much anymore. As a repertoire, as a good rule of advice, as you said, scam agencies, if you're paying for an agent right up front, that's not how that works. You
Yep.
have to do the job, do the gig, and then after everything is done, they take their percentage.
100%. 100%. Yes, sir.
So, but very cool, very cool. And I'm glad you had that early on because you'll be able to work on your career as you're continuing on. And I know that has led to your podcast, Midnight in Miami, which I love the show. I fell in love with the show when I saw my friend and season 2 guest, Amanda Ortega, be a part of it.
Okay.
She's wonderful to work with. I always love working with her. And when I watched your episode, I fell in love with it specifically because of your questions that you were asking with her and her answers, obviously. But I also just love the aesthetic and the vibe of it. I just love that aurora of it. It's so cool looking. For those who haven't watched it, I recommend watching any of their episodes because they're all good. But I recommend watching one episode, just because like the vibe of it's cool. It's very Miami Vice, very South Beach kind of oriented. It's just cool. It's a cool vibe. I love it.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. That means the world, man.
Very welcome, very welcome. I would love for you to explain to me kind of the early stages of Midnight in Miami and how
Oh
the
yeah.
idea came to be. Definitely want to know more about it.
Of course. Wow. Midnight in Miami was like a lot of things, a byproduct of the pandemic.
Okay.
Um, so, you know, first and foremost, I consider myself an actor, and that's what I'll consider myself pretty much to the day I'm underground. Whether I've performed last month or 3 years ago, I think that I think that I think that what you deem yourself like internally really does matter. There were points that I hadn't done a production in a certain amount of time, and then there was points that it's what is it? Hashtag booked and blessed.
Yes.
So nonstop, so you get both sides of the coin. I want to say, yeah, what pretty much when the pandemic hit around that time, I was doing a lot of work at a studio called Asylum Studios. Big shout out to Asylum Studios. They are a recording studio for music purposes. They have a state of the art recording studio, and I was there one night. It was a late night, and this was very early talks of the pandemic, and it was kind of like rumors that were coming from credible sources, but nothing had been uh, concretely set in stone yet. I'm the type of person that like if we had a long night last night, and we're like, okay, let's do this business venture or whatever, like I don't let it die with the evening. The next morning where everybody's like calm, cool, collected, and sober,
Mhm.
I still want to run with the idea. But I remember that night we were just talking and proposing certain ideas, and it was a very good, it was a very intriguing conversation. And like many podcasts start, it was just like a matter of somebody saying like, hey, this could be a podcast. Um and so I was like, well, like don't say it if you don't mean it, because I will follow through. At the time and still currently, I was doing a lot of MMA training, so I have a good amount of relationships with professional MMA fighters, and my first official guest was a UFC fighter.
Cool.
And yeah, but also because I had a very personal relationship, and I have a very personal relationship with him. Like he's my coach, but I already knew that I was able to garner at least some sort of a guest pool from that uh, from that social circle that I had, and then not to mention the acting social circle that I had. Um, and I wasn't wrong in that. I don't think I've had an issue, and I don't think neither have you in getting guests. But essentially, that conversation sparked it. And funny enough, when the topic of what we should name it came to be or came up, I don't know if you're gonna understand this reference. I don't know if anybody of the viewers are gonna understand this reference. But in Boy Meets World, there is an episode where Corey and Sean have to name their band, but it's a made up band because they don't know how to play instruments. What's the name of your band? They're like looking around, and like above the door, you know how it says the like it has the exit sign,
Yeah.
like for emergency exits.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, we're called the Exits, and so they call themselves the Exits. So I kind of took a similar strategy, and I was kind of like, oh, it's late. We're in Miami. It's midnight. It's midnight in Miami. And Midnight in Miami has gone through so many lifetimes and facelifts and cars and like so many different forms of Midnight in Miami have come from that evening. But if you want to like I guess like root it down to the very core of it, it was that night that kind of started it all.
And you mentioned some of your different guests there, and you've had a plethora of different guests throughout your over 100 episodic. I don't want to say seasons now. Now I'm like, okay, it's episodes. I want to say seasons. Now you're giving me the external struggle there.
Very blessed to have an extremely wide array from all different walks of life, all different careers, viewpoints that I've agreed and disagreed with, and I think that honestly, I've learned a lot from episode one. And I'm not saying that that in episode one I was kind of like, okay, I'm only gonna have people who share my similar viewpoints. I've had people who are so drastically different from what my personal viewpoints are, and I think that you can also kind of share this similar. You can't, to a certain degree, you can't fully express your personal viewpoints because you have to give the guests a platform to express themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to ask you, and I don't mean to switch things around and
become
the podcast host.
Welcome to Midnight in Miami impromptu episode right now.
Do you make it a point to say something? Do you stay quiet? Do you inquire more? What's your kind of like your plan of attack there?
Okay, well that's a great question. I will give you that right off the bat. This is welcome to Midnight or Questions. I mean, these are Miami. Yeah. To answer your question, I've been grateful to interview a variety of different guests, and not just the arts and media film, but in different genres of fields, from sports to modeling to yachting to acting to podcasting to music. I've interviewed a bunch of different people, which is really cool. And I've interviewed individuals from all across the world, which that's its own kind of mind-blowing thing. That's one positive doing these online interviews in that sense, filming through the internet. But to answer that question, I I'm open to different opinions because everyone's going to have their own opinion and their own different perspective, especially from a cultural sense of where you are geographically and environmentally speaking there. And it allows me to learn where they're coming from while they have the chance to learn a little bit about what I'm able to do. So in turn, we all get a little bit smarter, a little bit brighter, a little more questioning about what we do. So I'm more on the open side. I'm not going to necessarily bash you or attack you. My plan of attack is kind of let things happen and kind of adapt within the questioning or the answering that's being provided there and give my take on it while they're giving their take on it. So it's kind of like mutual.
Right. Oh man, look at you. Grab that and then just that was amazing. That was amazing. That was amazing. That was amazing. You killed it. You killed it.
This is my Dwayne Wade pass right over there. It's right there. Just hit the net. So we're ready to go.
You killed that, man.
Thank you, thank you. This has been the portion of Midnight in Questions. I mean, these are Miami. Questions are Juan. I mean, Steven is a question, I think. I don't know. What is this show anymore? I don't know anymore. Oh my God. And, we're going to keep on Miami there because I want to ask you this question.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a morning in Miami, an afternoon in Miami, and a midnight in Miami?
Oh, that is such a good question. And are we talking about in the general scheme of what Miami is normally known for? Or are we talking about personal, like Juan?
You could put both if you want. I think more in the general, but you can have your own twist on it. It's open for interpretation. This goes back to what you just answered me. Different perspectives, different things.
Different perspectives. Okay, so for the general Miami crowd, and I'm sure I'm gonna get like torn apart in the comments for this because I can't ever speak for anybody else but myself. I would say a morning in Miami would be like I can't put a name to it, but like your $9 latte spots in Brickell, I'm thinking like that's a typical morning in Miami. That's not my morning in Miami, I'll tell you that. Okay. But I would say that. For an afternoon in Miami, I would say maybe like a Winwoody sort of Frost Museum vibe, sort of vibey thing.
Yeah, I feel you.
And then for a midnight in Miami, if we're talking the general crowd, it could also be Winwood, depends on what you're feeling. Like a Gramps, the shots, or whatever the case. But I think that's what I put. Unless you're party hardy and then you go to 11 and you get out of there like 6 in the morning. There's no windows. You don't know what's going on. Yeah, exactly. But that's not my day. If we're talking Juan, a morning would be. It also depends if we're talking work day or not. Shout out Gable Stage, out A Doll's House Part 2, you know what I'm saying? About to open. Please check us out. We just closed our most recent show. So big shout out Gable Stage. But yeah, so if we're talking like a morning, I would say I'm not big like I love the idea of having a big breakfast, but I'm too like there's so many things to do in the morning that I don't have the time to like sit down and like do 17 pancakes. But I'm normally like grab a coffee and like I gotta go.
Yeah.
That's kind of like my morning. Afternoon will probably incorporate a good amount of editing with like possibly like World Cup reruns in the background. Just to like keep my like sanity going or whatever the case. That's another thing that I feel like editing is such a time-consuming task. But yeah, if I were to not be editing or whatever the case, I mean, my afternoon I would enjoy it. Honestly, I'm a big like homebody. So I would probably have a better time grabbing like some food or whatever the case and bringing it back home than I would eating out personally or making something myself or have someone else make it for me because I can barely make eggs, so there's that.
You gotta make eggs. You gotta make them.
I gotta figure out. So I gotta get on some Gordon Ramsay something, like a YouTube or.
You can invite Gordon Ramsay to Midnight in Miami, and he can show you how to make eggs.
There you go. That could work. I can make, and then he would tell me how bad they are, and we would go viral. Evening, right now I am thoroughly enjoying. God, I sound so boring because I'm staying home for everything. But I really am always like either editing or going to a cable stage, or I'm also big into thrifting. You
Okay.
know, completely unrelated to anything. But I love getting a good deal. I'll tell you that. I am currently watching The Last of Us.
Okay.
Great show.
Mm-hmm.
As well as The Boys. The Boys.
Okay,
Which
boys. Yep, boys are good.
boys are good.
Yes.
So very long-winded answer, but that's what I think the general Miami crowd is doing compared to my boring home life that you probably shouldn't have heard of.
It's all good. We needed to hear that here on These Are Questions, so it's fine. We got two different perspectives right on there, from general
That's full
crowd to your person.
transparency. That's transparency.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's transparency here. That's what we do on These Are Questions. We're transparent sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes.
There we go.
This relates / not relates to my question. Next question. Sure, we're gonna keep that in. I'm not. We never mess up here on These Are
That's
Questions.
transparency.
That's
you know?
transparency. That's right. That's right. It's just not me. It's me trying to figure out life decisions at the moment. So, I'm going to show you two pictures here, and I just want you to choose which one speaks to you more, which one you're vibing with more, okay?
Okay.
Do questions. So this is two pictures. I want you to choose Darth Vader. Okay, Darth Vader or Big Van Vader.
Oh, holy. Okay. Wow. Okay. So crazy. I'm going Big Van Vader. And the only reason is because he made several cameos on Boy Meets World. And that's right. The only reason. I was not expecting that. Wow. Big Van Vader for his several cameos on Boy Meets World. He played Frankie Stakino's father, and he was also a wrestler in there.
Yes.
You watched Boy Meets World?
I've watched some episodes of Boy Meets World, and I know that specific one as well because I'm a big wrestling fan, indirectly. So, and I love when they make certain cameos in certain TV shows. And I saw that one for Boy Meets World, and that was a great cameo. Love it.
Yes, I love it. I love it.
Good choice. Good choice. I love it. I love it. I love the reaction. That means I did my job. All right. My next question is another thing I want to show you. This time it's not pictures, but what I want to show you is this. This is a dice cube. Okay, and it's from 1 to 6. I just want to ask you, where do you think this dice cube is going to land on?
6.
6? Okay, I'm going to write that down. I want you to remember that number because this will play a bigger role at the end of These Are Questions, Season 5.
Hell yeah, what's some afternoon anxiety, you know?
Gotta wait till the end. Gotta wait till the end. The audience is waiting for the end. You're waiting for the end. I'm waiting for the end. Let's see how the end goes.
Let's see how it goes.
Let's see how it goes. We're gonna find out in 3, 2. No. End of the season. End of the season.
Oh. I'm putting all my money on 6.
Okay, good number. It's a good number. That might be the right number. It might be the wrong number, but I can tell you that it is a number.
There you go.
So let me ask you, what's a pivotal piece of advice you would give for anyone who wants to not just start their own podcast, but for someone who wants to maybe start their podcast or maybe get into the acting fields?
Okay. Do I have to make it like inspirational or like honest?
I'm assuming your advice is honest and inspirational. That's a Okay,
No.
I want to know this now. Now I'm intrigued. It's perspectives now. What do you think?
No. I'll be hashtag super real or whatever the case.
Okay.
So regarding the podcast field.
Okay.
I think that it's very important to not sugarcoat a lot of things. Because like all jokes aside, I love cracking a good joke, and like Midnight at Miami is a lot of that. But I like, seriously speaking, you can't sugarcoat this. If you're gonna, first of all, there's a very real, if you're gonna do an in-person podcast, and I think you know this, there's a very real both time investment and a financial investment. You have to weigh out what your goals are. Because a lot of people, most people, go into the podcast with um, after watching their favorite podcast, whomever it may be. I mean, the creme de la creme in regards to success is Joe Rogan. Now, whether you want to like dissect his whatever, I don't care about that. But as far as like who did it to the highest extent at first was Joe Rogan.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that a lot of people watch whomever their favorite podcaster is and think that they can do it, and they can. 100% they can, because at the end of the day, if you have a good personality, you can host a podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to be prepared, and you have to have good questions, and you have to be completely okay with failure. A lot of actors make great podcasters because they know failure firsthand. I mean, you got to get rejected a million times before you get your first. So there is that. There's a very real financial investment that comes involved with podcasting. Now, you shouldn't let that deter you. You shouldn't let the competition deter you. You shouldn't let the numbers deter you. You should go for it. But you should also be fully aware that it could be something that, one, you never make any money out of. You also need to understand what your niche is. Everybody has a niche, whether it's that you're perp when you're in Miami or whatever the case. Everybody has a thing. And if, for example, everybody tried to talk me out of, and rightfully so, of having all like a variety of guests. Everybody tells you, no, just do MMA. And I understand, because if you have something that you focus on, you're going to be the go-to for that audience. So you're going to garner a large audience that's very into what you're doing. Now, when you have no set type of guests that you interview, when it's not just MMA and it's not just actors or whatever,
Yeah.
you're putting all your chips on people liking you, which is fine, but that's a long haul strategy. That's not a short-term strategy. You have to figure out what's your strategy, what's your end goal. I've gone through like 17 co-hosts. Not everybody's gonna have the vision that you have. Not everybody's gonna have the longevity that you have.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you have a vision doesn't mean just because you have a vision and people at the time support it or view it as well doesn't mean that they're gonna see it through. And that's okay. And that's okay, because at the end of the day, it's your project. And if it does, take off or whatever, then you reap the benefits. But just know that, like, for the first 10, 15 episodes, yeah, all your friends are going to be in the comment section, como loco, wow,
Yeah.
que tremendo episodio, wow. But when that 20th episode comes in, that 25th episode, that 133rd episode, it's not your friends that are viewing anymore. It's your actual audience that you garnered. And you have to respect them, no matter how small it may be. Even if it's 2 viewers that are tuning in every week, those are 2 random people in the universe that you do not know, that spent an hour and a half of their time sitting watching you on TV, and you have to respect that. So don't be so focused on, oh, I don't have a million followers. All that, it doesn't, to a certain degree, it doesn't matter. I understand how it could matter, and to a certain degree it does. But for the craft of it, for the passion of it, and for the continuity of it, it doesn't. For the continuity and the longevity of it, you have to believe in it, not anybody else, not a co-host, not your friends that are in the comment section or whatever, just yourself, because all of that will wear off. And you can't blame your friends for, like, it's not their job to be part of your marketing team. If you want to do it, go for it. Don't let anything stop you. I would say I'm a big believer in, like, if I see I don't know, a special effect in Avatar 2 that I was like, God, that was amazing, I'm gonna do I am going to go down the rabbit hole into the internet to do everything that I need to do on my end to make that shot feasible within my budget. Figure out how to do it, because even if you don't have the budget of Joe Rogan, you can still achieve similar things with doing the hard work. What Joe Rogan has is that he has the budget to not have to, like, spend 20 hours to learn how to do a certain effect. Whereas you don't have the luxury of having that budget, but you have YouTube in front of you, you have Google in front of you. Whatever you want to imitate, however professional you want to make it look, you can make it look with whatever budget you have. It's just a matter of putting the effort in. So that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Great advice there. Definitely relate to it very much so. And I just had said this advice very recently too. It's not about the equipment and the effort financially you put into it. It's how you use that equipment. It's the tools within yourself, how you want to portray your vision. You don't need the most expensive stuff either, ever. Eventually, if you want to do bigger and bigger things, yeah, you want to get it for quality of life improvements, to improve the quality of the show, stuff like that. But when you're starting out, you don't need that. Focus on your own self-development there. Focus on what you want your vision to be with your ideas and what you're trying to execute with, and then keep trying, keep moving, and then things will fall into place in that aspect. That absolutely. I know that absolutely here. There's a lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, a lot of things happen, but it's the nature of the beast, and you learn from it. You become a better person in the skill set that you're working on.
100%. I would say that I would, having so many episodes, it's prepared me for so much. I've had technical issues in front of some of my biggest guests, and I'm just like dying inside, but outside I'm like calm, cool, and collected. I'm like, this is so normal. I'm literally Googling how to fix it. I've gone through so many technical issues that that to a certain degree it's beautiful, because now I can know, I almost have like troubleshoot codes in my head, because it's like, okay, this happened before in episode blah blah blah, and this is how I fixed it. Whereas before, especially in the very first episodes, like I hadn't even used this sort of software. Like I completely went in blind. I didn't even use the software. So when there was any issues, I was really at somebody else's whim at the time. And then when I moved into my own spot, there was nobody else. Most things that you need to figure out, you can find out how to do on YouTube. And for the very specific like troubleshooting things that I needed, I would suggest Reddit. Reddit is an amazing tool for that.
Absolutely. YouTube, Reddit are all great platforms. Now it's easier than ever to learn things and fix things too. And for myself and for a lot of creatives, a lot of us are self-taught. So it's like, you don't need to pay fancy money for school necessarily. There's nothing wrong with that. But like, if you're on a budget, you're tight, you just got to learn it. You can go online and teach it yourself. You know what I mean? And just play around with it. And if you really love it, you'll find a way to make it work. So
exactly. I'm sure, you and filmmaking, I'm sure there's been so many times that like you've seen a shot and like there was something that inspired you, or something that you wanted to kind of like feed from as a source of inspiration. And I'm sure that YouTube was a tool for you to learn a little bit more on there.
Oh, absolutely. Learn everything not everything, but I learned a good majority of everything, especially in my early stages, on YouTube, like learning how to become a YouTuber, learning to do editing. And then a lot of it's just, for me, it's literally pressing buttons and see what breaks the system. I like breaking systems, so I like to break everything and then build from the ground up. That's what I did with Windows Movie Maker. That's what I taught myself with Sony Vegas, and now with Adobe right now, and with DaVinci at the moment, and like Avid. So like, yeah, it's just breaking. For me, how I learn is break everything, like my shirt, just break everything, and then build from the ground up. You know what I mean?
Oh,
but that's mine. Everyone's different. But my point is that you learn online, you find ways to learn from it. You know what I mean? And now it's easier than ever to start that podcast. It's easier than ever to make that film show. It's easier than ever to make that video, make that project. It's a lot easier, but it's a matter of putting the time and the effort to make it happen.
100%, man. I couldn't have said it better myself.
Thank you. I much appreciate it. This has been a fun, vibing, podcasty, interviewee, questiony interview style thing here on These Are Questions. Well, we are wrapping up here. But before we finally wrap up with everything, I just have one more question to ask you, Juan. And the question I want to ask you involves superheroes. I also saw that you were Quailman, so like shout out to Quailman there. When I was doing my research, I found that it's there. Go look it up. Spoiler.
Thank
you. My question is, if you had to bring any superhero to life with their powers and everything, which superhero would you bring and why?
Sheesh. Okay. Um, do-do-do-do-do-dum. This is a good one.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is a good one. This is a good one, and it got me a little stumped. I'm gonna go with I think I'm gonna do Batman.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's the most realistic superhero that could make the transition jump.
Yeah, actually, you're right. That is an easy cop out.
No, I'm not knocking it. I'm not knocking you. Don't say it's a cop out. I'm just thinking like if like realistically, probably the one that would make the most sense because he has the least amount of supernatural powers, it's more
Well,
gadget and technical.
well, that's actually kind of like what sold it to me. I think that it's so I mean, it's so cool that in like amongst the ranks of superheroes with people that are extraordinary with amazing capabilities, like he's there as quote unquote another human. To think that somebody with just a normal person like just gets some workout in and a little veggies, is able to is able to do that is like amazing. And also I'm a big nerd for gadgets. I love gadgets. Anything like Spy Kids vibes. Like I'm eating all of that up. I love anything having to do with gadgets. So I think I'm gonna do Batman.
Okay. You heard it here, folks. If you just do your weights and work out and have your veggies, you can someday become the Batman.
There we go.
That's the quote of this episode right here. We are at the end of our These Are Questions interview. Juan, it's been a great pleasure interviewing you for the show. But before we finally wrap up, the internet floor / internet floor / internet floor / floor of the internet / the midnight of the Miami internet is yours. Anything you want to talk about, anything you want to discuss, anything you want to promote, this is your time to shine. Take it away.
Okay. Wow. Well, I appreciate that very much. First of all, I want to say that I'm deeply, deeply honored and appreciative of the invitation today. I can't wait to actually get to chop it up with you in person. I hope to one day, we do that crossover. we do that crossover. That'd be amazing. But I would love to have you on our set whenever you're available. We'll get that set up, and I think that'd be an amazing time. But again, I think that you are an amazing podcast host. I think that your dedication, your attention to detail is unparalleled. So first of all, kudos and hats off to you. Besides the thank you and the eternal thank you for hosting me, I would say check out Midnight in Miami if you get the chance. We're on pretty much all platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Deezer, Apple Podcasts, like everywhere you can think of. Anywhere and everywhere you get your podcast, we are there. Like I had recently mentioned, we just closed We Will Not Be Silent at Gable Stage, and we're going to open a Doll's House Part 2 by Lucas Nath, February 24th. I am actually going to be doing The Odd Couple, female version, in Boca Stage in the next couple of coming months. We're actually about to start rehearsals in about a month. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So please stay tuned for that. But besides that, please check out Midnight in Miami. We normally release episodes every Thursday at midnight. And yeah, thank you again. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. My pleasure. You heard it right here. And just want to say thank you to all of our viewers that are watching this episode on my YouTube channel and or listening to this episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Midnight in Miami's podcast, Miami in Midnight podcast. Don't worry about that. For those that are listening, we greatly do appreciate you. Thank you so much. And with that, all I have to say is that you've been watching / listening to These Are Questions. Good afternoon, everyone. Or good morning, everyone. Or good evening, everyone. Or good night, everyone. Well, who knows? I don't know. I don't know when you're watching this or listening to this. Who knows? You could be listening to this in the void right now, where there's no time construct. It could be Messi listening right now in Argentina. I don't know. World Cup repping. He's got free time. He's got free time now. He can listen to an episode. You never know. You never know.
There you go.
There you
You
go.
never
There you
know.
go. There you go. All right, everyone. Bye-bye.